One philosophy I adopted was, lowering the weights down and focusing more on quality, like time under tension. And
Yes.
what that means is putting more load on your exercises, like, for example, a squat. You're doing a squat, whether you have dumbbells in your hands or a bar on your back, you're focusing on just a simple squat. And instead of repping out 10, 15, 20 reps, at like 1 second intervals, taking that process and taking 5 seconds to slowly drop down. We call that like the negative or the eccentric contraction.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to another episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm Jenn Trepeck, your host and health coach, here with you every week. And today we're answering probably one of the most burning questions people want to know the answer to. And that is, how do you improve your metabolism, right? How do you increase your basal metabolic rate? So you've heard this from me before. We've discussed it. We did an episode last year called Metabolic Rehab. But I also know, or I should say, and I also know that we need to hear things 7 times, 7 different ways from 7 different people. So I have a wonderful guest to join us. You actually may recognize him from his podcast called Over 40 Fitness Hacks. And he knew he wanted to eventually start and operate his own business that would help others achieve their wellness goals. So after exploring many options, he decided to get his personal trainer certification from ISSA and open up his own private training studio in Huntington Beach, California. Over the last decade, he's owned and operated 3 gym locations in Orange County and oversaw over 40 independent personal trainers, each with their unique training styles. He built a loyal following and fostered a sought-after client-trainer community culture within each of his gym locations. Post-COVID, his focus shifted to be more on the online training, and he started his fitness podcast, Over 40 Fitness Hacks. The show focuses around the passion for helping the over 40 crowd fight the aging process while still having a social life. So you get why we vibed, and we knew we had to do this. So without further ado, I give you Brad Williams.
Yeah, what a great introduction. Thanks so much, Jen, for having me on the show. And yeah, just like you said, like when I saw just the title of your show, I knew we were, in tune with each other. So
I know. It's so fun to see you again. So fill you all in. We had a couple chats. We then recorded for your show, Brad. We recorded, I want to say it was January. And then those aired in April. So, plug it. Over 40 Fitness Hacks, episode 312, 313, and 314. Go check those out.
Absolutely.
And we covered a lot on those. A lot of myth busting.
Yeah, myth busting and, nuggets, which you call. I call hacks on my show.
Yeah. And then now we get to continue the conversation here. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Where do we start?
We're going to start with your story. But super quick, because I don't want to interrupt you. Let's tell our members what they're getting, and then we'll do your story. Cool?
Cool.
All right. So members, your recipe this week, catch this, is for sea scallops with fresh cherries and tarragon. So I know you're so impressed.
Very interesting.
Okay. So here's the deal. July is the perfect time for cherries. And I bet you're sick of eating chicken, right? I hear it from people all the time. I don't know what to eat anymore. I'm so sick of the things that I've been eating. Or whether it's the same things all the time, chicken or not, this is for you. Because I promise you, you can make scallops at home. They are super easy. This whole thing is 15 minutes, right? Like start to finish, that's all 15 minutes. You could throw it over a bed of like arugula or spinach, and now your whole meal is 15 minutes. So absolutely amazing and delicious. So if you want this recipe, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts for me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It is a total deal when you take advantage of the full offerings. It is a steal. I say it all the time. It's a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. You're going to save far more than that $10 cost. Plus, your membership supports this podcast and this community so that we can continue to do this with you every week. So remember, you're going to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or actually just click the link in the show notes because that's way easier. Once you're there, you click support now, type your email and payment method, click subscribe, and you're all set. You'll get this week's recipe for the sea scallops with fresh cherries and tarragon. All right, Brad, tell us your story, because we heard a little bit in your bio that, you had varied interests, always passionate about helping people. But I know you also have your own story of transformation. So share it with everybody.
Absolutely. I'm a little hungry now, but I'll try my best here. Yeah. So, I kind of started out in life with kind of health conscious parents. My father was a medical doctor. Mom was a nurse. So that kind of helped us, at the start, but just was always into sports and exercise, got into more lifting in high school, and just always had that mindset, and went through college and knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur like my uncle. I just didn't know what to do. And through various jobs over the years, my brother and I were talking about doing something together. And he's like, well, God, you're so passionate about fitness. Why not just start there? And so, we got some money together, took some time, and then, made a business plan. And then there we went. Opened up my first gym in Huntington Beach, California. And, just fast forwarding 14 years, just tons of struggles, lots of competitions, lots of successes, lots of failures. But the whole time, my kind of niche was always the over 40 market, because that's kind of who could afford us personal trainers, especially our style. And, 14 years later, lo and behold, I turned 40, and, COVID happened. I kind of shifted over to more of the online world. And, I kind of summarized my last 14 years of, I was always that late 20s, early 30s trainer pushing my over 40 clients like, come on, old man, you're not dieting good enough. You're not exercising enough, and with a fun atmosphere and everything. But I get to 40 and oh my God, now I'm having trouble as a personal trainer keeping the weight off, staying injury free, and all these things as part of the aging process. So now I'm like, oh my God, these poor people. Yeah. Now I know what they're experiencing. So kind of that shift in attitude just led me down a different path of just worrying more about slowing down the aging process, being a little bit more conscious of injuries than, I was prior. And, you just have to start tweaking your routine, not only your exercise, but your dieting, to be able to, sustain a body that you want and feel good. And that's another thing is feeling good is more important than just hitting the equipment and, building more muscles than you probably need.
Totally. And, you had an injury too. So talk about, how that impacted you, and because I feel like that's also really informed your approach now, right?
Yeah. And that was about 5.5 years ago, so I was about 38, and as a gym owner, I'm the accountant, the bookkeeper, the bathroom cleaner, the marketing guy, everything. Yeah. So I'm moving some equipment, and we between the 3 gyms at one point we had, and just a freak accident of holding a 40-pound rack, going to my truck, not seeing an eye bolt we had in the ground that normally we cover with a cone, and just violently tripping over it, holding the rock, caught myself, which usually I pride myself on my balance. And this time it actually worked against me, and blew out my L5-S1 disc. And so over the last 5 years of just going to every chiropractor, physical therapy, just seeing it just progressively got so worse. And the sciatic pain was out of this world painful. And, I became basically a master on YouTube watching other people go through this experience just to see if there was hope. And I got to a point where I just had to bite the bullet and do a surgery.
Yeah.
And so up to now, I've had, 2 surgeries. I still do physical therapy, still go to my chiropractor, and just the overall adoption of taking things slower and more mindfully. As far as I thought we were doing before, not enough. It needs to be even slower, be more mindful, activate every muscle group in whatever exercise you're doing. And it's just quality matters more than quantity. So now I'm at a point where, I feel really good. I'm back to almost 100%. I'm not lifting the kind of weights that I used to lift. That's gone in the past. But functionally, I feel like a monster. Like I can do anything. And that's all that matters to me is feeling good. I've got a journal for, my diet, my exercise routine, and I'm doing 2/3 less amount of work that I used to do, and focusing more on all my tips and tricks for, dieting and nutrition. And I'm not going 100% into all the fields. My whole thing is, I also like to have fun, and I put that fun more on the weekends and just have a whole system in place. But
Yeah.
That's kind of who I attract, is the over 40-year-olds who want to play a little bit. I'm not trying to get anyone to compete in bodybuilding or anything like that.
Yeah, but I love what you said about now, it's so interesting because the perspective of saying you're 100% and yet it's not the same weight that you lift now as before, right? So I think there's a big mindset shift in terms of what 100% looks like.
Yeah. And that's the thing, before it was just more going off of how much weight am I lifting and every type of exercise, how high can I jump, how fast can I run? And, unless you're getting paid millions of dollars to play some sport where that matters, now I just feel great all the time. I have no tennis elbow or little nagging injuries where I used to have that. But, when you're younger, you just kind of push through it and usually went away. Now I never have it. And if I did get it, it would hold on longer and stay with us. That's just part of the aging process. So, adopting that philosophy, I just feel better in my body now than I did in my 20s, even though my 20-year-old self could probably smoke me right now.
Yeah, but there's so much value and power in that, right? And for you guys hearing this, because, I think sometimes people feel like they're past the point of being able to do things or certain things, or, we just accept, the tennis elbow feeling as, well, that's what happens now. No, right? It doesn't have to be that way at all. I love that. And, honing in on what we want to focus on today, which is raising our basal metabolic rate. Let's make sure we're all on the same page. How do you define BMR?
Yeah, so BMR, as far as what we all learned as personal trainers, basal metabolic rate is just how many calories are you burning in a day by just your normal walking, talking, and then at rest sleeping in one day. So basically, there's all these calculators out there and fancy machines that can kind of guess that work for you. Then, there's your baseline of, do I want to lose weight? Okay, I got to decrease calories. Do I want to gain weight? Okay, you got to increase some calories. But then you have to put into effect, what stuff am I doing today out of the norm of a normal person? Am I running, walking long distance? Am I working out, doing HIIT? And so there's all these calculators that kind of help you. And it all comes down to just being in tune with your own body, keeping a journal. And you kind of have to biohack your own body a little bit, because not everything is the same for everyone. It's just a baseline. So that's what's real hard for people to comprehend. And I tell them they want the exact answers. I can't. You're going to have to see just make small changes every month and see where it takes you.
Yeah, for sure. And I love this idea of small steps and figuring it out and recognizing too that everybody knows their own body best. And there isn't, unfortunately, a one size works for everybody thing. But there is a piece of focusing on this, especially as we age, right? As we grow up. So you talked about this in terms of even shifting the identity around what 100% looks like and feels like. Talk to us a little bit about that mindset shift and also why it's so important to look at things a slightly different way and focus on this too as we grow up.
Yeah. So I think just, closing in on 40, it could be a different year for everybody, but just seeing that, you're more out of breath than usual. It takes more effort to get the same result. You start having issues. I started getting allergies, real serious allergies starting at 34 all the way to 40. They came out of nowhere. And that's what I read, that's where it happened. So I'm allergic to shellfish. I'm allergic to NSAIDs. I've got EpiPens everywhere just in case something happens. I've gone through that. But not only that, but
don't get the scallops recipe then.
Yeah. Well, I think scallops, I'm fine. I think it's just shrimp and lobster. And just knowing that the aging process, our bodies are slowly aging. I don't know if you call it a disease or it's just part of life, whatever you call it. It is starting to slow down. So you're losing less. Your body's recycling its mitochondria. It doesn't need as much anymore as you did when you were in your teens and 20s. Your muscle doesn't adapt and the hormonal response doesn't grow like it used to. So it's real hard to keep that muscle on, where we go back to, quality matters more on your workouts and your nutrition. And if you're taking protein supplements, that matters more versus when we were in our 20s, we could eat anything and we'd get the results we wanted. So it's just you got to be just a little bit smarter. And, that theory of work smarter, not harder.
For sure. So let's focus on the movement side and then the nutrition side. So on the movement side, how do you help your clients and listeners raise their metabolic rate?
Yeah. So just focusing on just building, the best way to raise your metabolic rate is building lean muscle mass. And you want to work smart and not, tear your joints out and knowing that you're over 40 and this is going to be a harder process. And just realize that it takes more time. Don't check everything every week, more of a monthly or quarterly check-in. Yep. And one philosophy I adopted was, lowering the weights down and focusing more on quality, like time under tension. And
yes.
What that means is putting more load on your exercises, like, for example, a squat. You're doing a squat, whether you have dumbbells in your hands or a bar on your back, you're focusing on just a simple squat. And instead of repping out 10, 15, 20 reps, at like 1 second intervals, taking that process and taking 5 seconds to slowly drop down. We call that like the negative or the eccentric contraction, and really focusing on squeezing your glutes, feeling your hamstrings, your calves, and then taking 5 seconds to slowly come back up, focusing on everything else as well. And that's one rep. When you're doing this, you're literally doing like 4 to 6 reps because you're so gassed by the end of this, and you're using half the weight you used to. So one, less pain and suffering on your joints and better for longevity for your joints. And two, you're recruiting more muscle fibers by slowing down that muscle process. Because when you're repping out fast 1 second intervals, your body's only going to use certain muscle fibers that can handle that stress really fast and really heavy. When you slow it down, use lighter, all your other muscles come into play.
There's also a piece of the speed and the heavier muscles or the heavier weight that relies on the joint versus the muscle to do the work. Versus, recruiting all of that musculature that's going to support the joint.
Yeah. And when you start using heavier weights, even though you're trying to focus on the muscles you're working, it's so heavy that other muscles that you didn't intend to help out, like your upper back and, maybe too much on your core, like start coming into play and doing most of the work where you were trying to focus on your, your quads, your glutes, your hamstrings, or whatever the exercise is. So that's the problem with going too heavy. So if you slow it down, focus on, the muscle group you're working out for that day, whatever program you're on, you'll just get so much better results. You'll feel great. And then, thus the other part is the nutrition aspect. Yeah.
So one more thing on the fitness side, right? Like if we're focusing on, oftentimes we'll hear people say lighter weight, more reps, right? You're saying lighter weight, slower reps. Talk to us about quantity and also as far as building a full workout, given that we're doing lighter weight, slower reps, is it still the same old philosophy of, putting them together, to work different muscle groups each day or those kinds of things? Like, how could we build this out?
Yeah. So for a full split for someone over 40, like one of my clients, there's like 3 things I train on. And one is, the time under tension, slowing that down. And it's however much weight you can handle to still hit that 4 to 6 rep range, as long as you're doing the seconds we just talked about. And if you can progress and it's too easy, you just start increasing the weights. So we have that. Then the other one we work on is like high intensity training. And, you think, oh God, CrossFit, I don't really want to do that. High intensity training is whatever it takes to get your heart rate up. It could just be body weight. And just do whatever exercises that you can do. Like I still have to watch out for my lower back. So I'll tend to do stuff that's a little safer for me for that aspect. But as long as you're feeling good, crank up the speed, use light weights. And I kind of use more time intervals for that. 30 seconds on with a 30-second break. And the whole purpose of doing HIIT for the over 40 crowd is, I mentioned before where, your body's recycling and losing less mitochondria, the energy and powerhouses of your cells. It's just a process of aging and slowing down. So we don't want that. We want to stay youthful. So you have to train at least one day a week, in my opinion, on boosting that up to replenish your mitochondria to feel more youthful and then thus become a fat burning machine. Because that's what mitochondria are used for. When you're in a fat burning mode, mitochondria is what uses that to make, ATP. So that's another one. Then another day we focus more on like just general, strength or balance, or anything more specific to what the client was looking to do when they came in to see us. So that's kind of the 3-prong approach that we do with our training.
I love it. Yeah, we're going to come back to balance because it's so important. Okay. And I know you even mentioned it in your story. But let's go back to what you were saying before about the nutrition side of improving your basal metabolic rate.
Yeah. So the very simple part of that is, building lean muscle. We're already doing what we need to do in the gym. Obviously, you got to feed and give your body the nutrition it needs. And focusing on that more is, protein. We need to have a good amount of protein, whatever you think the right amount for you is. There's all these different calculators out there for every diet. And, I would say just start somewhere. And just like I said, every month, if you're not getting the results you want, maybe adjust it up or adjust it down. For me, right now I'm at 210 pounds. I try to get at least 150 grams of protein, if not closer to 200. And it just depends on what I'm doing that day. Like today is, podcasting day. I'm going to go for a walk later. I'm not going to do much. So I don't need anything more than 150 grams. So staying on that point is getting quality, so getting your food. Hopefully you can do as much organic food as you can that your wallet can, take on. But like eggs are real good, chicken, fish, red meat. That's like one of my favorite things, but I just know how much that gunks up your system and all the other issues with that. But, moderation is key when you're talking about that. And if you're going to go the supplement route, an easy change I do with clients is, from when they were younger and the cheaper stuff, it was always like the whey protein concentrate or pea protein concentrate. And just, isolate is a little bit more refined process to beat it up and, comes with digestive enzymes to help assimilate it better. It's just a few bucks more. Do yourself a favor. It's already a struggle being over 40 and fighting this and putting on lean muscle. Just get the better stuff. And as soon as you do a switch like
also,
that.
Like if somebody has an issue with lactose, right? The isolate doesn't have the lactose. So it might open you up to a whole host of more efficient protein sources.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I coming into my 30s, I became lactose intolerant, but I'm deathly allergic to whey in high dosages. So that whey protein concentrate would put me under the ground. So I have to do pea protein, and they have a pea protein isolate version to get that same effect I was talking about.
Yeah. And I just want to go back to what you were saying about the quantity of protein, because you're exactly right in that, everybody, what makes you feel your best is going to be different person to person. And I know that people listening were going, holy shit, that sounds like a lot of protein, right?
Yeah.
Because when we hear something in grams, it sounds really different than when we hear it in ounces. So for perspective, full disclosure, I just got out the calculator on my phone. I could not do this math myself, right? We talk about it all the time. 7 grams of protein is about 1 ounce of a cooked meat or like 1 egg, right? So your 150 grams is like 21 ounces of protein, which is exactly what we talk about all the time. For a man, a meal being 6 to 8 ounces, you're exactly there, right? The 200 is more like 28 grams of protein, right? So it's exactly what we talk about all the time. So I just want to, for everybody, like, don't freak out that all of a sudden, this sounds like so much. Like, it's certainly possible. It's more than what you've been doing, but it's not excessive.
Yeah. And you know what? There's a whole thing, with all this longevity research, and I'm real into that stuff too, and all these scientists.
You're going to love our nutrition nugget today.
Yeah. And, just like how protein just gunks up our system, and it's not the greatest for longevity. And, bodybuilders, we already know in the personal training world is, it's what they love. That's fine. But it's not the healthiest thing to do to get down that low and percentage, and also how much protein they have. And so there's a trade-off, and for me, I know that having a little bit more protein to build a little bit more athletic looking body for me, for aesthetics, I take care of my functionality and my HIIT stuff as well. But I know that's, a little bit going against the grain of what the longevity people are saying, and that's fine. And, when it comes down to it, we're not going to live forever. Quality of life matters too. So it's whatever feels right for you. And just my biggest thing now is just write a journal and just always be in tune with your body, what foods, what drinks you're taking affect you. I even discovered red wine gave me some weird reaction with my histamine, so I don't drink that anymore. So it's just, get a list going. Just make life a little easier than it.
Yeah, for sure. So I have to figure out, I just received a request for another episode all about tracking and looking at these patterns and finding these connections like you're talking about. So that is definitely coming your way. And, just all of this, Brad, like I could not agree more in terms of understanding how we build muscle nutritionally and physically.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what's the balance between the focus, right? We need both, but like, what's our best approach for increasing our basal metabolic rate between those two factors?
Between
nutrition,
diet and exercise?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, being over 40, doing those splits like I mentioned, my balance is, doing at least 3 workouts a week. And I like to do that mix I mentioned, 1 HIIT, 1 time under tension, and 1 normal, focusing on issues you got going on. For me, it's lower back strengthening. And then for dieting, it's Monday through Friday, be as clean as possible. Saturday and Sunday are my weekends. I have a little bit more fun. And I know by Monday, it's back to the grind to kind of do that. And everyone's got their different splits and things like that. And then the other parts we didn't mention is, how important, especially over 40, sleep is, and stress. And stress can be physical stress. Well, we took care of one of those. We're not going as heavy anymore. But then, mental stress and all those like affect your cortisol levels. And if that's out of whack, nothing in your diet or anything we're doing in the gym is going to get us any results.
Preach. I'm like, yes. And by the way, this is exactly, we're like so on the same page. This is exactly where I want to head after a quick break from our partner for this episode. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Big thanks to Lumiere de Vie Skincare for supporting Salad with a Side of Fries. Lumiere de Vie Skincare was founded by Amber Ridinger McLaughlin in response to her own experience of mere marginal results from countless costly creams. She realized the revitalization of her youthful skin could only occur if she developed products herself. Working closely with beauty scientists and exploring the most advanced ingredients derived from the earth and sea, Amber created Lumiere de Vie, the next generation of skincare. The extensive line of luxury skincare products is designed to address all skin types and concerns with the highest quality natural ingredients and powerful formulas that help heal, soothe, moisturize, and protect. Lumiere de Vie acts as first aid for your skin. The result, rejuvenated, luminous, beautiful looking skin. So in honor of Brad joining us today, and because this show is specifically for those over 40, I suppose we highlight a couple of the Lumiere de Vie products that might be particularly interesting, right, to this same crowd. So one of my favorites is the needle-free serum. I use it every morning. It's one of those where like I can feel it working, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It reduces the appearance of wrinkles without the needles. It provides a quick tightening effect for taut-looking skin, plus it moisturizes, which also helps skin's appearance and health. It's $99.95, so not a cheap one, but is cheaper, more economical than the needles, right? And then I also love the Eye Revive gels. They're $51.25. They're like a face mask, but specifically for the under eye. They are hydrating, cooling, soothing. They help with that awake glow. Love them. Could not recommend them more. And oh, by the way, all of these prices are before your 10% off and free shipping because you're a Salad with a Side of Fries listener. So text the word SKIN, SKIN, to 844-947-4846. You'll receive the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, simply text the word SKIN, SKIN, to 844-947-4846 to try Lumiere de Vie Skincare at 10% off and free shipping. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. All right, Brad, you started to go there already. Let's talk about the stress piece and recovery, right? Like, what does recovery look like?
Yeah. So the main recovery for our bodies is done through, our normal nightly sleep. And, that's where it's, draining all the toxins from our brain, for our lymphatic system, recovering our muscles, way faster than during the day. While you're eating protein, you get a little bit, but most of that work is done at rest. So the better quality sleep you're getting, the faster and better results you're getting. And people who have horrible sleep patterns, they never get results in the gym, and they'll just beat us personal trainers up about it, even though we're doing the same program as everybody else. And it's not just diet. And then the other piece of stress, like mental stress or physical, but mental stress. I always like telling a story of one of my clients. She was with me for like 4 or 5 years. And we did a lot of damage, got her great results and a functional body looking good. And she just wanted to go that extra mile, and we just couldn't get this like extra 6-7 pounds off, or, she thought she needed more, but, another 5 pounds I thought would have been great. And, part of the story was that she has always hated her job, always had problems with her coworkers and boss. She's, gone to other jobs and same thing, and the pattern repeats. And finally she came to a point where she's like, I just want to go off on my own. I'm very skilled. And she did like internet marketing type stuff and website design. And her husband finally got to a point where he could let her do it. She quit her job, and I knew this was coming and everything. Quit her job, and literally in 1 week dropped 7 pounds. Like, I couldn't believe it. And that's the first time I've ever seen like how important, keeping that stress level and cortisol levels down, or else you just can't do anything. Your body is just in distress, and fighting itself. And that's what it does to protect itself. Your body, with anything being over 40, your body is holding on to this fat because that is survival. It's the most efficient fuel source that we have. And it's so easy to store it and keep it long term, which, we don't like doing it. But, it is important to have, but up to a certain point, it becomes a burden and has all these other disease and things that can happen. But, in our world of aesthetics, we do have to keep a certain level on that. But, there are things that we can do and still be healthy.
If I had a penny for the number of people whose underlying root cause issue of everything they're complaining about, you know what I mean, is the stress, I'd be an absolute bajillionaire.
Yeah.
Like, most of the time, like probably 99% of the time, it is a major contributing factor to whatever somebody's frustration is, whether it's nutrition, exercise, any of these elements.
Yeah. And, besides mental stress, even physical stress, I went through that myself with my back issues and going through surgeries. Finally getting myself moving into the same routines and all that kind of stuff and not getting any results because I was like at a constant level 7 pain all the time. And so until finally like enough time and some breathing techniques and just better physical therapy, getting that down, and then, weight just starts dropping off, feeling better. And it's just all, there's so many moving parts to our bodies. Like, we still don't understand like a fraction of what we should.
Exactly. So speaking of all of that, I want to go back to the balance piece and balance training. I think balance is one of the most overlooked elements of training. From your perspective, we hear from your story of why it's so important, but also tell us more of like what you see with your clients and how we can best train for improved balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've always incorporated balance in our circuit training, weightlifting, strength training, always some balance, always some core. And, the importance of that is not only is it strengthening the smaller muscles around your joints, your ankles, your knees, your elbows, your hips, and just being a more functionally fit, physical being. Some of my older clients, like the 60, 70, 80-year-olds, there's always that stat that you keep seeing everywhere that, slips, trips, and falls is like 90% of all those are so catastrophic and can't come back from. And hopefully, medical advances in the future will help us out a little bit. But in the meantime, we cannot have accidents later. God, I'm 43 right now. And then one injury is taking so long to recover from. Imagine when you get to those later years, like it just can't happen. So we pride ourselves on, working that into the system of balance. And people think of balance as, okay, I just stand on one leg. That's balance. Well, that's a good start. There's just so many different variations and theories about it. And one is, balancing on one leg, or you can balance on both legs on a Bosu ball or a balance disc. And there's so many different. Oh, okay. Well, it's so many.
Well, how often are you standing on, right? Like there's a functional piece to all of this,
sure.
Right? How often are you standing on a waterbed where that's the piece of the training that we're looking for?
Yeah.
Right. I feel like, I don't know, people get carried away with that one.
Yeah. I know. And there's a whole thing of if you're constantly on there, then all of a sudden your spine and your hips are getting offset and that kind of stuff. These are very short duration exercises. And then, moving on to, single legs or doing double legs in the unstable surface. Then there's balance and rotation. So doing like, balance and motion. Let's start there first. So doing like lunges, that's a balance and motion exercise. Then you take that and do the lunge and add some rotation into it. So now you're offsetting your equilibrium and your center by doing that. Then you can advance that to, handing off a medicine ball to your trainer or a friend or something, going to the other side. And it's just, it just compounds and gets more and more and more. For the normal client we have, over 70, we probably don't get too far more than just, basic lunges. It's fine. Maybe a little twist. But for some of our athletes and people who want to keep going with it, it's just endless. But like I said, it's protection against the joints, it's protection against slips, trips, and falls, and just, being more centered, and body awareness.
Yeah, but I love pointing out that there's the rotation piece, there's the motion piece, because a lot of times I think people discount some of those movements, or because they're maybe more challenging, they don't do them. Mm-hmm. And it's like all the more reason to do some of those elements where it adds a bit of instability, for the lunges that are going forward and back and moving across and.
Yeah. And then we go back to that whole concept of doing quality and slower. So, some people are trying to get through these balance exercises and just do them real quick. And no, that we're defeating the purpose here. So you need to take your time, feel everything, do that twist, hold, come back, and focus on not tilting one way or the other, and just, let your body react and do its thing. And I promise you, it does get easier and it does get better, which then, we go back to being a better functionally fit person.
Yeah. And that balance thing, like you were saying, as we age with, falls and things like that. But even like your own story, if you didn't see something on the ground, that had nothing to do with age.
Yeah. And then for me, that was a rare occasion that, balance actually kind of screwed me a little bit on that one. But then the overall piece of that story is, if I hadn't been as functionally fit and, where I was with my body, I mean, I can only imagine how much longer that recovery process would have taken too. And, I've seen that with some clients that have gone through certain surgeries for whatever reason, and, how fast they come back out of it versus other people who are, don't really do anything and kind of lethargic.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you for a couple hacks, right? Specifically, I feel like this time of year, people are traveling a lot, or we're home and, maybe we don't have equipment, or we're not sure how to level up given the same equipment that we have. Give us a couple hacks for traveling, being home, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Some of my favorite things are real kind of cheap is, buying some resistant bands, the ones that are like 6 to 8 inches long.
Ones.
Yeah, the circular ones. And they're like, $4.99 on Amazon or in stores or whatever. And you can do so much with those. And they're perfect for traveling. And just use those days as more of working on those, physical therapy or addressing certain issues in your body. Because, when you get back from traveling, you can go back to your normal routine for the other stuff. But then other good one is like a TRX, a little bit pricier, maybe I think they're like $80 now. But you can literally take it anywhere, any hotel, any park. And there's so many different exercises you can do with that, and incorporating some balance as well. And another one I like doing is, doing balance exercises on kind of like a foam pad. So it's not as crazy as the Bosu disc or some of those other balance trainers. This barely gives any instability, but just gives you enough. And another good cardio trick I like when I go on vacation or something is doing stuff like we just said for balance, but also just sitting there and jumping on the foam pad. So you're getting a little bit of cardio if you're sick of walking or running, and building up your calves, but also it is just exhausting, and it's very easy on the joints, very easy on your hips. And once again, that's another like $12 item you can get from Amazon or your store that you go to.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and even some of the, like a Pilates mat versus a yoga mat,
that's
right?
Enough.
The foam. Yeah, exactly. I love it. Awesome. All right. Wrapping this up, final thought or something you want to make sure everybody knows about raising their metabolic rate?
Yeah, just, you can mostly between diet and exercise is like the big two factors. And like we talked about, sleep and stress. I like to think of everything as just like buckets and write a name for that bucket. This one is for protein. This one's for, overall health in my diet. This one's for sleep. This one's for stress. And give yourself a score 1 to 5 and just dabbling in each one of those and trying to increase it, not going crazy all out. Because, anytime anyone does that, it just all starts falling apart. But you'll be surprised when you start working on each individual aspect of that, how much easier and better results you're getting that are longer lasting. And once again, this is not an overnight project. This is, takes years. Yeah,
for sure. I love it. And, just thinking about them as buckets, and am I depositing into every bucket?
Exactly.
Love it. All right. It's time for our rapid fire off topic questions. You ready?
Ready.
All right. What's the best thing you've done for your health this week? What's the naughtiest thing you've done related to your health this week?
Well, let's start with naughty. Starting from Thursday to last night, I had some friends in town that I haven't seen in a long time, and Oh man, they were taking us everywhere, to every brewery, every little bar or restaurant, and drinking whatever, eating the worst foods. And
So fun.
I have tips and tricks to kind of counteract that, but I was like, I know I'm so good at my routine, it doesn't matter. Starting today, back on track, and I might skip this weekend, and but if you want to play, you got to pay. So there's that one. And then what was the other question? Or I forgot the first one.
The best thing you've done for your health this week.
Best thing I've done for my health this week is just going on walks with my daughter. I enjoy walks. I'll make it a little bit harder and we're like a weight fest. But the best part is that she started liking going on walks. So it's kind of a fun thing that we can do together. I hate going to all these little kids' birthday parties and that kind of stuff. That's more of mama's side. But for dada's side, I just like my alone time. And, her liking that is just like awesome. And she's going like, a mile and a half now. So it's like we can actually go
awesome.
Places.
Yeah. Tell everybody how old she is, too.
Oh, she's 6 years old now. Just finishing up kindergarten.
All right. If you weren't a personal trainer, what would you do?
Oh, God, I'd be a real estate agent. I actually did get my real estate license. We're moving actually in a month to San Diego. And I did it for the sole purpose of getting a little, referral fee for my own place. But since then, I've gotten 2 others. And I'm just like, God, if I had started this back in my 20s, like my buddy who I'm doing all this with, he's just a phenom. Beautiful life, has an awesome car, loves his job, loves people. And it's, I had that same vibe and characteristics as him. Had I started just at 20 with that, I could have done it with personal training too.
Totally. All right. Your favorite book on any topic other than your area of expertise, or it could be a fiction book.
So there's where you stump me, because I haven't read a book for pleasure since sophomore year of high school. I hate reading. I've always been a visual learner. Obviously, I'm watching TV and that kind of stuff. But later in life, I discovered, educational stuff like on YouTube.
Yeah. All right. So give us a YouTube.
Oh, so YouTube, like one of the biggest ones, I do is it's actually, I became like a kind of a crypto buff. And I found this guy that I'm watching, and he's so slow when he's talking. But on YouTube, you can go, 1x, 1.5, 2x, 3x. And I just digest information visually faster when it's faster, because if I get bored, I just start ignoring it. And that's what happened to me in college and, high school. So had I known that, I could have started that earlier in my life.
Yeah. So who's your YouTube crypto guy for everybody to go find?
It's called Cryptos Are Us. His name is George. And just out of all the different people I just love him. He's just the way he stays on topic. And he also puts in like other real news and real stocks as part of it too. So it's like I get all my information in one place.
Nice. All right. If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
Just cancer. It's literally the worst one that looks like there's not too much action on getting rid of that anytime soon.
Yeah.
There's everything else. It looks like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but cancer for sure.
If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
I think I would, I've just always been into strength and all that. Something similar to like the Hulk, indestructible and super strong.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve is people with pet peeves. I'm like, I can't believe like everyone could just enjoy life, let people do what they want to do. When I even hear people say, oh, this is my pet peeve, I'm like, oh, I don't have any pet peeves. Just, if someone's like kind of negative and all that, okay, that's fine. I go this way. And
I love it.
You just go after positive stuff. So I've always hated that word.
That's awesome. All right. Last one. In your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness?
I think the next frontier in wellness is just like when I started the show, I'm really getting into this longevity research, and, they're doing stuff to worms and, mice and other little animals that is extending their life like 30, 50, 150% to like some of these worms, and have very similar characteristics to the human genome. And all this research is like decades old, and it's finally coming out. So already stuff they've done within the last decade won't come out for 20 more years now. So it's like, and they are going nuts. And with that and AI, we've all seen like ChatGPT and how crazy AI is going. Put those two together, this might be within our lifetime. So, don't mess your body up. Just stay as long as you can on this planet, and maybe we'll reap some of the rewards of all this.
Awesome, for sure. All right, well, thank you again. Tell everybody how to connect with you, where to find you, all the places.
Yeah, so the two easiest ones are just my website, over40fitnesshacks.com, and that's 40, not spelled out. And same thing with my podcast, Over 40 Fitness Hacks, with the 40. I really hate social media. So those are really the two mediums I do. I do have a Twitter account, same thing, at over 40 fitness hacks. Yeah, that's
awesome.
it.
Yeah, we'll put the links in the episode notes. Thank you again. Just appreciate your time, your perspective, and your approach to things. We're so aligned. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenn.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready for this week's nutrition nugget?
Let's do it.
So on Friday, right up the alley of what we've been talking about in this week's episode, we're talking about autophagy. So maybe you've heard the word. It's certainly a buzzword in health these days, especially as people talk about fasting and keto and anti-aging. So we're going to get into it. What is it? What do we need to know about it? How might it support health? And how maybe it's not the greatest thing for us. So we'll decipher what we know from the research, what we still need research on, all things autophagy this Friday. So be sure wherever you're listening, click the plus sign or the follow button, and then the app will alert you when our Nutrition Nugget goes live Friday morning. So make it easier to find it. Well, as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or really all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENN-TREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideoffries.com. Pick your platform, website, or social, send a message. What do you think about autophagy? What do you think about, raising your metabolic rate? We want to hear it. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Brad Williams, thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jenn.
Absolutely. And friends, if you're not already a member, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. This shows your support for this podcast and this community, but most importantly, it truly supports your health. And you'll get this week's recipe for sea scallops with fresh cherries and tarragon. So until next week, remember that you can improve your basal metabolic rate. It's never too late to focus on it. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.